Let us therefore brace ourselves to our duties, and so bear ourselves that, if the British Empire and its Commonwealth last for 1,000 years, men will still say, this was their finest hour. The line lands like a hammer on steel. The room is dim. A radio trembles on a wooden table. The hour is late. The future is unknown. And someone, somewhere, decides to stand up anyway. Tonight, we go into Winston Churchill's letters and speeches, into ink-stained pages and midnight decisions, to pull out something you can use when your week looks impossible. Not abstract, not polite. A way to hold the line when the world turns cold. Look at the clock. Imagine 1940, London in blackout, maps on walls, pins like teeth. He steps to a microphone and speaks of duty and time and bearing. But it wasn't only speeches, it was letters, notes. Quiet pages written with the weight of failure on his shoulders long before the cheering ever came. Start earlier. 1915, Gallipoli collapses. The newspapers don't use words like nuance or context. They use blame. Churchill resigns, wounded but not destroyed. And instead of chasing a safe corner, he goes to the Western Front. Lieutenant Colonel, 6th Royal Scots Fusiliers. Mud, wire, breath like smoke in winter. And at night, by candlelight, he writes. Letters to Clementine, notes to friends. Fragments of a man rebuilding himself, not by waiting, but by working. The glamour is gone. The cameras are gone. The question remains, who are you when the stage is stripped away? He could have disappeared. He didn't. He chose contact with the hard thing. He chose the cold reality. He chose to begin again, among the men, in the mud, under the same sky that terrified and steadied them alike. That is a lesson for anyone who has failed loudly and wants to vanish. When your name has been dragged through the gravel, the instinct is to hide. But imagine if your next move was not retreat, but return. Not rage, not excuses. Return to duty, at the smallest scale, where no one applauds. Return to the work that needs doing. What he learned there was simple and cruel and honest. The antidote to public failure is private discipline. The antidote to humiliation is the next action taken with care. He served. He walked the line. He observed. He earned back a piece of his own respect, and out of that winter he would climb. Years later, the microphone, the roar. But even then, the method he discovered in the trenches did not change. He kept doing the same quiet thing, naming what must be done, and then bending his day to it. Now shift the scene. 1940, after Dunkirk. The beaches were not triumph. They were a rescue. Britain stands alone. He goes to the House and speaks, not guarantees, not ease, but a vow. Let us therefore brace ourselves to our duties. It sounds grand, but notice the structure. It's a single line of instruction. Brace, duties. How you will bear yourself. He gives a posture, not a prediction. And in that, another lesson. When chaos swallows the world, reduce it to one sentence that you can live by. Your life has moments that echo that kind of chaos, not with bombs and invasion, but with endings and exits and losses. You can't control outcomes, but you can choose a sentence. One sentence that gives your soul a posture. I will carry myself with courage for the next hour. I will be worthy of the trust someone placed in me. I will not turn away from the hard conversation. This is not poetry. It's logistics for the heart. Give your will a handle. Then lift. But words alone don't carry you. The machine that keeps you moving is built in the morning and repaired at night. Churchill knew this. His day was a map, blocks of briefings, memos, responses, decisions. To cut through the fog, he used a stamp, red, blunt, and absolute. Action this day. Not tomorrow, not soon. A decision turned into motion before nightfall. It was a way to compress time, because delay multiplies anxiety. The longer you stare at a problem, the bigger its teeth. Here's the third lesson. Decide how you will make decisions. If everything is urgent, nothing is. Churchill separated the merc from the muscle. What needed his signature? What could be delegated? What had to move today? He turned indecision into a pipeline. Motion doesn't guarantee victory, but it pushes dread out of the driver's seat. And dread is the enemy of courage, because dread can dress up as wisdom. Beware the velvet voice of delay. Now, there's a secret most highlight reels miss. This was not a man who ran on fumes. He cultivated a strange, necessary stillness. In his darkest seasons, he painted. Yes, painted. Fields, ponds, the light at Chartwell. Not as a hobby for elites, but as a personal rescue line. Brush, color, silence. Painting as a pastime. He called it later. He needed a practice that made his hands slow down and his mind quiet, because courage without recovery is a short candle in a cold wind. If your days feel like trench lines and alarms, you need a counterweight, not a screen, not a scroll, a human act that absorbs you, repairs you, and returns you. You might say, I don't have time for that. But you don't have time not to. Energy is not given, it's grown. Stillness is not found, it's built. And the right kind of stillness isn't escape, it's maintenance. Paint, write, garden, lift. Build something that is yours and that doesn't clap back. When the storm hits, you'll reach for it, and it will give you back a longer breath. Back to the letters. In those early war months, he wrote obsessively. Requests, replies, notes that moved projects forward by inches. His biographers talk about the precision, the control, the emphasis on clarity. But in private, he had doubts. He was not a statue. You can hear it in the edges of his sentences, the ache of responsibility, the cost of being the voice in the dark. This is where the fourth lesson lives. Courage often sounds like conviction in public and like questions in the mirror. Both can be true. The presence of doubt does not cancel the power of duty. You can carry both, as long as duty holds the reins. Maybe that is where you are tonight, heavy with questions, tired of pretending. Good. Start there. Courage is not an emotion. It's a posture under pressure, and posture can be chosen. The trick is to make that choice a habit. That is why his words still bite. Brace yourself to your duties. Duties are not glamorous, but they are reliable. When your head is full of fog, duty is a compass you can hold. Let's weave these strands into something you can use by morning. First, fall forward into work you trust. After failure, shrink the field and get close to the ground. Do one thing that restores your respect for yourself, not 5. 1. Second, give yourself a sentence, a vow that directs your energy. Let it be specific and brief and hard. Third, install the stamp. Action this day. Identify the one decision, the one piece of motion that will make the rest of the week lighter. Fourth, protect a practice of stillness that makes you more alive. Not a trick, a craft. Something that repays you in calm focus. These are not slogans. These are screws and bolts. But imagine if you tried this for 7 days. How would you feel on the 8th? Imagine if, for 1 week, you spoke to yourself like a commander who cares and a friend who tells the truth. Then imagine if you gave someone in your life that same courage, not by speeches, but by your posture. Zoom in on a closing door at night. The house quiet. The desk lamp pools a circle of gold on paper. You write your sentence. You name your duty. You pick the one thing that moves today. You set the brush, or the book, or the weights where you can't miss them in the morning. You go to sleep. The storm does not stop. But when it knocks, it finds you aligned. There is more in the archives. In 1941, at Harrow School, he returned to tell the boys what they most needed to hear. He said, never give in, never give in, never, 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 in nothing, great or small, large or petty. Never give in except to convictions of honor and good sense. You can feel the rhythm, but you can also see the rule. Never give in, except to honor and good sense. That exception matters. It's permission to pivot when truth demands it. It's not stubbornness, it's fidelity to what's right. Courage without wisdom is reckless. Wisdom without courage is useless. Together, they make a backbone. So, how do you stand with courage that bends but does not break? You shape your day like a fortress. You build routines that don't rely on mood. You put language to your mission so your heart has a north. You put ink to paper so your intentions have weight. You keep a short list of people who make you braver. and you tell them the truth when you falter. That's what he did, through letters, through memos, through speeches, a river of words that turned into bridges. But imagine the other path. Imagine if he had allowed bitterness to calcify after Gallipoli. Imagine if he hid. Imagine if he avoided the front, avoided the house, avoided the microphone. History would have scraped his name into a small footnote. Instead, he went forward, bruised but breathing. He turned shame into service, and service slowly turned into strength. Don't romanticize it. The black dog of depression followed him. He misjudged things. He argued. He drank. He was human. That is part of why his lessons land. He did not float above his problems. He wrestled them into form. He gave them jobs. And that's what you can do with the parts of your life you don't like. Give them a job. The doubt that gnaws at you, turn it into a checklist that improves your work. The fear that stalks you, turn it into preparation that trims your excuses. The anger that burns too hot, turn it into fuel, but pour it through the filter of honor and good sense. If you're waiting for a clear sky, you'll wait forever. Most of life is fought in weather. Churchill built systems that functioned in rain. Action. This day was one. Another was the way he set the tone in meetings, listening, rising, debating, then deciding. He carried maps because they made arguments concrete. He marked, he circled, he assigned, and then he expected motion. Inside your own week, maps take the shape of calendars, budgets, and plans. They aren't glamorous, but they are merciful. They turn the fog into roads. Midnight again. The city sleeps. The radio light glows. He speaks into the dark, and the dark answers by not breaking him. That's the quiet miracle of courage. The world does not always reward it with instant victory. Often it simply fails to crush you, and in that space the chance to win appears. If you want something to etch on the inside of your mind, use his frame. Brace yourself to your duties. The best part is how humble that instruction is. It doesn't promise triumph. It promises posture. It tells you where to point your shoulders. And from there, the fight becomes navigable. Now pause with me here for a moment. What is the one sentence you will live by this week? Put it in the comments so we can hold each other to it. And if these words help you build courage, subscribe and stay with this channel. We make these night lessons for people who refuse to quit. Back to the desk. The letter is half finished. You can almost hear the scratch of the pen. He would often write late, then wake early, nap in the afternoon, and work into the night again. Unusual rhythms, yes, but the point is not to copy his schedule. The point is to own yours. Too many of us are passengers in our own days. He was a driver. Tailor your day to your work and your wiring. You can be responsible and unconventional at the same time. What about when fear spikes? In June 1940, fear was everywhere. But those speeches did something subtle. They acknowledged peril in full, then chose a stance against it. That is the next turn. Face the facts, then reframe the fight. Don't inflate optimism. Don't shrink danger. Name it. Then ask, given these facts, what would it look like to be brave? Not in theory, in a single action. That is where the moral gravity lives, in the move you can make now. Do you see how his letter writing and memo culture pushed toward that? A letter is a decision clarified. A memo is a problem sliced to its core. A speech is a mission pinned to time. Together, they form a lifelong habit. Translate confusion into sentences, and sentences into steps. Even when he failed, he processed by writing, by deciding, by acting. You can steal that. When your mind spirals, write. When your list grows, stamp one thing. Action this day. When fear swells, return to your sentence. I don't want to float above the ground here. Let's bring it to earth. Say you're facing a job you might lose. Tonight, your sentence could be, I will be the most prepared version of myself by Friday. Action. This day might mean 3 targeted emails, a revised resume, a call to a mentor, and an hour learning a skill you've avoided. Your stillness practice could be a 40-minute walk in the cold with a notebook. No music, just steps and questions. It is not heroic. It is not grand. But courage often wears work clothes, or say your relationship is shaking. Your sentence, I will speak the truth without rage. Action. This day, write it first, edit it, strip the blame, ask for the conversation. Stillness. Take a slower breath before every reply. This is how we fight on our beaches, inside kitchens and offices and late-night texts. Victory is not guaranteed. Dignity is. Let's circle back to the man himself. The myth is useful, but the human is better. He carried a famous voice, yes, but the voice was built from routines. The routines were built from choices, and the choices were constrained by a single idea, duty. Duty gave him rails. You don't need to be prime minister to need rails. In fact, without a title, rails matter more. Because no one will impose them for you. You impose them on yourself, because without them, you are a hostage to your moods. Think of that stamp again, red and final. Action this day. He wasn't saying, do everything. He was saying, do what matters now. Most days do not need 1,000 victories. They need one. Choose it tonight. Your life is not a war, but it has campaigns. It has fronts. It has weather. It needs a commander. That's you. And when you stagger, borrow his last turn of mind. Even his greatest lines were delivered under pressure and doubt. He did not wait to be unafraid. He used fear as evidence that the moment mattered. Then he stepped forward. That is the pattern to repeat. Feel the fear. Mark the duty. Step. You can feel the temperature of this room change when you choose like that. The same bills, the same tasks, the same conflicts, but you stand up differently. Your back lengthens, your breath slows, your voice steadies. That's not delusion, that's discipline. That's posture catching up with purpose. If you want to remember one image, let it be this. A small pool of light on a desk in a dark house. Paper, a pen, a sentence, a stamp. A man who failed and tried again. A nation on the edge that did not fall. And you, tonight, picking up the same tools. Different century, same choice. So here is how we close, as if the old voice were speaking directly to you. You will not always be certain. Be brave anyway. You will not always be strong. Brace yourself anyway. You will not always be celebrated. Do your duty anyway. Write your sentence. Mark your action. Make your stillness. And when the storm asks who you are, answer by how you stand. Bear yourself so that, years from now, when somebody speaks of this week, this dreadful, beautiful, ordinary week, they will say, it was hard, and they did not give in. And if anyone asks what changed, you'll know. Not the world. Your posture. Your next right action. Your finest hour didn't arrive. You built it.